we are now looking at the feet. This is what it says, Ephesians 6:15. It goes on and says, and with your feet fitted with the readiness that comes from the gospel of peace. In our passage, Paul, out of all the things that he could mention, now brings the attention to the feet. And if you're like me, there's so many other things that he can talk about. There's so many other places, but he so specifically then goes and brings our attention to our feet. And despite, this could be often overlooked, but if we go back and we look at the Roman soldiers of that time and the battle they faced, I'll tell you, if they didn't have ready feet, they would be paralyzed. You see, the Roman soldiers of that time wore shoes that were comfortable. They wore shoes that had spikes at the bottom of it. They wore shoes that prepared them and made them ready to go the distance, to overcome any terrain that they could stand on. You see, without feet that were ready, the soldiers would be paralyzed. There would be no battle. There would be no gaining ground. There would be no advancing. There would be no standing firm. See, Paul sees this, and he says to us in our spiritual walk that we too have feet that are made ready. Feet that are ready for us to advance. Feet that are ready for us to stand firm. And he says that it is prepared by nothing else than God's peace. He says our feet are fitted with the readiness that comes from the gospel of peace. Peace that gives us stability. Peace that enables us to stand firm. Peace that prepares us to go the distance. You see, the title of the sermon today is Walking in Peace. See, we need to walk in peace. Peace is a gift from God given by Him so that we would be ready in this battle. Ready to stand firm. Ready to move forward in our life. And what I really want to emphasize with you today is that this peace is a gift from God. This peace is not like the world's peace. You see, the world's peace versus God's peace is different. The world's peace is defined, if we look at any dictionary, the Oxford Dictionary, whatever we look at, the world's definition of peace is the freedom from disturbance. You see, I have an issue with this description or this definition of peace. Why? Because it is impossible to maintain. It's impossible to achieve. Who here has a life that is free from disturbance? Who here has walked a day without disturbance? You see, this definition tells me that in order for me to have peace, I need to escape my life. It tells me that I have to draw away. I have to stop all the troubles. And friends, I find that we do that. We'll go on the vacation. We'll try to get away. We try to withdraw. We try to do all these things. But what do we find? We go on the vacation. We come back, and what happens? The problems are still there. The problems are still waiting for us. You see, the peace that the world defines is a peace that says, don't fight the battle. Avoid the conflict. Do whatever you need to kind of just, keep your state and let's just not go through this. See, it's a peace that is dependent on external things in our life, and it's simply uncontrollable. See, but this can't be the peace that Paul's talking about. It can't be the peace that he's mentioning in Scripture. How do we know this? Because Paul mentions peace in the context of warfare. He mentions peace in the context of disturbance. He mentions peace in the context of the battle. He doesn't say, flee from it and you'll have peace. He says, in the middle of warfare, you have peace. And this peace is what will get you through the warfare. You see, he is talking about God's peace. That's not based on external circumstances, but a gift given by God. In John 14:27, it says this. This is what Jesus says. He says, peace I leave with you. My peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled and do not be afraid. The peace of God, what does Jesus say? He said, I'm not giving you what the world gives. The peace is not made by you. It is my peace I leave with you. It is my peace I give you. You see, it's nothing that we manufacture on our own, but it's his peace that is given to us. Peace in the Greek word where it's originally, the Bible's originally written is eirene. It's wholeness. It's essentially all parts working together. It's God's gift of wholeness. You see, God's peace is not freedom from disturbance. God's peace is remaining whole through disturbance. It's that we would have a sound mind, a sound heart through all the trials, through all the tribulations of our life, that we would be ready through everything that we go through. It's this peace that Paul says that we have in the battle. It's the peace that is assured of God's plan. It's the peace that trusts him. It's the peace that he gives us. And I'll tell you, I feel like preparing this word, talking with you guys honestly, I feel so deep in my heart that we need to really understand the peace of God. That we are a troubled world. That we have troubled hearts and troubled minds. I'll tell you, I was preparing for this message this past week. And I don't know what it is. I don't know what happened. But there's like sickness in my family just comes randomly. And it's like 24 hours. It's like Harper, then Rachel, then me. And then on top of that, you all experienced it, colossal snowstorm. And then again this morning. And I'm trying to prepare a message on peace. And I'm here writing about peace, but I'm stressed, and my mind is everywhere, and I'm kind of like, what's going on? And I find it so ironic that like I gotta write about peace, but I hear God in the stillness remind me, my peace is not based on the external. My peace is given within. That it's inside of you. That what's outside cannot overtake what is given to me on the inside. It's that peace that readies me. And I'm not saying this stuff to kind of dump my problems on you so you can kind of make note of Paul's issues, but I'm telling you this because you can probably relate. That you too have weeks, days where it's just not going right. Where you feel these feelings. And I want to say that through all of those things, God has given you his peace, that it's within you. And unfortunately, just because we believe in God doesn't mean we are exempt from problems and trials and tribulations. We are not exempt, but we have the gift of peace. That the troubled mind, the troubled heart, that the gift of peace helps us to navigate through it. You see, we need the peace of God in our life because it is just too hard out there right now. There are just too many trials, too many tribulations, and what we know for sure is a fact is without his peace, we are left paralyzed. The feelings of anxiety, the feelings of doubt, the feelings of fear, the feelings of confusion, all of these feelings that come our way are just so overwhelming. And they come over us. And what happens to us, it's like we have no feet. We're paralyzed. We can't move. We're going in circles. Our hearts, our minds are divided. There's no gaining ground when we have doubt and worry in our mind. It's difficult. See, we're left paralyzed when we don't have the peace of God. In James 1, the Bible talks about the impacts of it. James 1 says, doubt is like a person who is tossed back and forth by the wind, that is blown, tossed back and forth by the waves, blown by the wind. In Matthew 13, when Jesus is talking about the parable of the sower, what does he say? The word takes root, it grows, but then what happens? Worries of this world choke it away. In John 14, we're talking about the troubled heart, troubled mind. Troubled means that your heart is just being wrenched back and forth, back and forth. Fear is the crippling feeling of despair. These feelings are overwhelming. And I want to be very clear These feelings aren't evil. It's not bad to have these feelings. You see, we all face these things in our life. There are things that come. I want to be very sensitive because I know how crippling these feelings are. And I know how it can overtake us and how it can overwhelm us. And I'm not standing here today to condemn you. I'm not standing here today to prescribe something to you. I know that some of these feelings are so overwhelming that we need to do deep work, that we need to work through these things. But I want to stand up here to bring you the truth and encourage you that there is peace for your troubled heart and troubled mind. I want to bring the message of hope today, that there is peace that God has for you, for your troubled heart and troubled mind, that He has given you peace, not like the world gives, but a peace that will make us steady, sound, that will ready us so that we can walk ahead. In John 16, when Jesus is talking to His disciples, and He's telling them of a time where He's not with them, He's telling them of what will happen. Look what He says in John 16:33. I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world. What's so significant about this passage to me? It says that we will have trouble. We can't think that, we won't have trouble, but He says, take heart. He has overcome the world. There is a peace for us today. Today, with my time with you, I just want us to understand more what He has given us that will ready us to walk forward. I just want us to understand the peace of God that has been given to us so that we can access it, so that this year we can gain ground, so we can walk in peace. The question, how do we experience God's peace? It's in two ways. And the first way we experience God's peace is peace with God through Christ. The reality is that before we put our belief in Jesus, we were not at peace with God. In the beginning of time, when Adam and Eve were in the Garden of Eden and they decided to disobey God, what happened? Anybody? Okay. What happened was sin entered in them. And there was a distancing between God and man. God who was holy, unholy man. And what happened was, at that moment, there was no more peace. We were separated from Him. Sin entered within us. And this did something to our wholeness. This did something to our peace. Why? Because now we are walking life with a God-shaped void in our heart. Now, as we were designed to be in communion with Him, we are walking this life away from Him. And humanity and all of mankind goes around, even to this day, searching and searching and searching to fill themselves what was left reserved for God. See, there's this moment of restlessness, and I'll tell you, there is no other greater feeling of restlessness, uneasiness, lack of peace, lack of contentment than a life far away from God. I want to be very clear with you today that you will not have peace unless you are in relationship with God. Why? Because He designed you for Him. He designed you to be in relationship with Him. So when we are far from Him, our soul is restless. We feel this uneasiness inside of us. It's like nothing can satisfy us. We're wandering through this life trying to figure out what's missing. Let me tell you, friends, it's God. He designed you for a life with Him. But the great news, the good news of the gospel of Christ is what? That Christ made a way for an unholy man to be reconciled to a holy God. that Christ stood in the gap. And we learned this over the past couple of weeks, that Christ, in his righteousness, he takes our sin and we take his righteousness. He pays for the penalty of our sin on the cross as we come to him, confess in him, believe in him. He dies, raises to life again, and we are given the Spirit of Christ. We are given restored as the children of God. He makes a way, and now there is peace between an unholy man and a holy God because of Christ. Christ is the one who gave his life so that we can be restored to what we've been searching for, to what our restless souls have been longing for. Christ made a way. It says this in Colossians 1:19-22. For God was pleased to have all his fullness dwell in him. He's talking about Jesus. And through him to reconcile to himself all things, whether things on earth or things in heaven, by making peace through his blood shed on the cross. Once you were alienated from God and were enemies in your minds because of your evil behavior. But now. Say, but now. Powerful words, but now. He has reconciled you by Christ's physical body through death to present you holy in his sight, without blemish and free from accusation. See, because he loves you and me, he made a way for peace. We didn't do anything. We couldn't do anything. You see, God, Romans 5 says that when we were powerless, when we were sinners, God made a way for us to be reconciled with him. That Christ reached out, that he sent his son for us to be reconciled. And now 1 Timothy 2 says that Jesus is the mediator, the one who stands at the gap, the bridge, so that we can have relationship with God again. My friends, thank God for what Christ has did, because now we are restored in relationship. Now we are at peace with God again. We who once were orphans, who were restless, wandering, have now been found, have now been made whole through Christ, to live a life with the Father again. How sweet it is to be in relationship with God. You see, how grateful are we for the gift of peace that God has given. See, nothing is better in this life than living with him. I'll tell you, the most valuable thing that you have in your life, the one thing that you should treasure the most above all things, is your relationship with God. Paul says it. Apostle Paul, he says it famously in Philippians 3. He says, I consider everything that I have done garbage to knowing Christ. See, that's the relationship with God that we have. See, it's the most important thing, and God made a way for it to happen. You see, God is with us through every trial, every tribulation, every hardship. So be encouraged today. The healer of the sick, the provider, the one who gives water, living water to the thirsty, the one who created the heavens and the earth, the one who can speak creation to existence. He is with you. He is with you. He is with you. Be encouraged today. You are reconciled with God. There is peace with you in God. The situation that seems difficult, impossible, that has been wrenching your heart, let the truth encourage you that through Christ, God is with you. Let's declare it like David, Psalms 23, 4-6. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. Surely your goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Peace with God. It gives us access to his presence. And his presence changes everything. That's the truth. So be encouraged today, because nothing can separate you from the love that reached out, the love of Christ that made a way for peace. Romans 8:37-39, knowing all these things, we are more than conquerors through him who loved us. For I'm convinced that neither death nor life, neither angels nor demons, neither the present nor the future, nor any powers, neither height nor depth, nor anything else in all creation will be able to separate us from the love of God that is in Christ Jesus our Lord. I pray that it would settle your heart, that it would help you navigate through your situation, that it would challenge the lie of the devil, for you are not forsaken. You are not abandoned. You are not going through this trouble alone. God is with you. God is with you. He is with you. Let that sink into your heart, that through Christ we have peace with him. The second way that we experience peace is peace from God through his Spirit. You see, now that we're made right with God and we have a relationship with him, he also gives us his Spirit. His Spirit is within us. And that Spirit, my friends, it produces peace. The fruit of the Spirit, one of them is peace. Galatians 5:22, where it lists the fruit of the Spirit, says, but the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace. You see, when we face difficult situations in our life, we have the Spirit to comfort us. We have the Spirit to teach us. We have the Spirit to remind us of the truth, remind us of the promises of God. I'll tell you, God is so close to you. He is so with you that he's not only beside you, he is within you. You have to understand that today, that the Spirit that produces peace is inside of you. It's residing in you. And it brings peace, that feeling of wholeness through every trial and tribulation, reminding us of the words of Jesus. You know, like that verse we read in John 14, look what it says before that. It says, but the advocate, the Holy Spirit, whom the Father will send in my name, will teach you all things and will remind you of everything I have said to you. Peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. I do not give you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled and do not be afraid. You see, in fact, the Bible says that the Spirit of God intercedes for us. It prays for us. It makes us, according to God's word, it prays for us and helps us in our weakness. Romans 8 says that in the same way, the Spirit helps us in our weakness. We don't know what we ought to pray for, but the Spirit himself intercedes for us. The wordless groans. And he who searches our hearts knows the mind of the Spirit, because the Spirit intercedes for God's people in accordance with the will of God. You see, the Spirit that's inside of us, that God, Christ's Spirit in us, is helping us through these situations. As you go through the situations in your life, the Spirit of God is inside of you. It is with you. And I'm telling you, I'm finding it hard to explain. I was sitting and I'm thinking, but it's so hard to explain. But for those who have experienced, didn't know it. The tangible feeling of peace that comes over you. I'm telling you, it's you feel it. It's like situations are coming your way, but there's something that's being produced inside of you where you have this trust in God, where you have an overwhelming feeling of his presence. It's the Holy Spirit at work in us. It's a peace from his Spirit. So I want to encourage you, take heart, that Spirit's inside of you. When you're facing these troubled situations, remember, God is so near that he's also within you. Peace from God through his Spirit. My friends, all of these things, these two experiences, they are a gift by God to us. We cannot manufacture this. We cannot try to come up with it, do all these things, but it's God's gift to us. It's what he is giving to us, and it readies us to move forward. It readies us to have a sound mind so we can walk in peace, walk ahead. But what does Paul also say? He says in our passage, he says, have your feet fitted in the readiness, the gospel of peace. He says, fit your feet in it. What does that mean? Well, that means to me, it means that we have to be so in line with the peace. We have to guard it. You see, it's a gift that's given to us, so we need to guard it so that we stay ready. How do we do that? Well, I want to explain to you just a couple ways. And the first way that we guard our peace from being stolen away from us is turn to prayer and his word. See, Philippians 4:4-7 says, rejoice in the Lord always. I will say it again, rejoice. Let your gentleness be evident to all. The Lord is near. Do not be anxious about everything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. You know, last year in September, for those of you who are walking with our family, like September to December was in our family's life probably the hardest times that we've faced. Why? We were sick, it felt like for 3 months. And it was just like ongoing, rotating around. Rachel ended up getting pneumonia and we started to go all through these things. I was sick through it, and you probably noticed as I'm preaching and all this stuff. But what started to fill me? Like doubt. All these things started to come in my mind. You know, you start to question like, why is this happening to me? Will I ever be healthy again? You know, you start to be in your misery, or you start to think about all these things. You feel suffocated. You feel trapped inside. It starts to paralyze you. And you're kind of like in this motion where it's just, you're trying to stand, but it's so hard to stand. And I remember recalling, you know, the principle of this verse, which is like turning to God in prayer. And I'll tell you, what has helped us through that season was prayer. It's turning to him. It's turning to him in our anxiousness and in our doubts, our insecurities. It's laying things before him. And I would feel the peace of God fill you. This is his promise to us, that he will fill us with his promise. You know, and I'm reading this book about prayer, and the author is talking about this verse, and he said something so specific. And most of us start in this verse, if we could put the verse up, that in the do not be anxious part. But he draws attention to this part. He says, look what it says in the first part. If we could put it up, Philippians 4:4-7, if you could put that on the screen. But if we look at just verse 5, look at verse 5 and look what it says. Before it says don't be anxious, it says what? The Lord is near. See, sometimes we forget that part. In all of our anxiety and all that we're facing, sometimes we forget the simple truth that just even in your anxiety, that the Lord is near. And he hears you and he's available for you to turn your heart to him. So I want to emphasize that today, because when you feel anxious and you feel all that stuff coming over you, come to God with honest prayers. You don't have to come to him with already buttoned up peaceful prayers, but you come to him pouring out your heart. The Lord is near, and let him fill you with his peace. Let him meet you where you're at, and let the peace that transcends all understanding come over you. My friends, what does that mean? You need to turn to him. You know, this is the popular passage where it says, you know, that peace that transcends all understanding. You know how people quote that? We want the peace that transcends, that makes no sense. And sometimes people ask like, well, Pastor, how come I can't get that peace? Well, I ask the question, do you pray? Is your first response prayer? And I'm not saying that we need to pray it away. I do believe that there is hard work that needs to be done. I want to preface that. But I want to say we must firstly pray. We must firstly turn to God, because we don't have enough inside of us to overcome this. But God does. My friends who are anxious, the Lord is near. The Lord is near. The Lord is near. So when you feel alone, and you feel trapped, remember that truth. Come to him in honesty and let God be the one to fill you. Take off the pressure on yourself. I need to be okay. I need to fix it all. You don't need to. Let God be the one to cover you. And may his peace cover your heart and mind. So you got to pray, but you also have to turn to the word. You see, the devil loves to what? Lie. See, and he loves it when we're trapped in worry. He loves it when we're trapped in doubt. And what he does, he plants lies in our minds to keep us there. He plants lies in our minds. He says, oh, you're going through this alone. There's nobody who loves you. You'll never overcome this. This is who you are. He tries to keep you in it. And our friends, I'll tell you, if you do not know the word of God, you are helpless before him. That the word he plants in your mind, the lie becomes your truth if you do not know the truth. So we got to be proactive in our faith. We got to turn to God so that we know the truth. So when this time comes, we can combat the lie with truth. See, truth, the word of God will bring perspective to your suffering, will bring perspective to who you are, will tell you about God's plan for you, will encourage you that when the devil tries to steal your peace, that you can say, no way. Because I know the truth of the word of God. So turn to his word. Psalm 119, 165 says, great peace have those who love your law, and nothing can make them stumble. Second thing, set your mind on Christ. We got to fill our mind with good things, with things of Christ and good things in life. Again, you could be here saying, my mind is so troubled. I don't know how, I'm feeling this trouble in my heart. One of the things I would ask you is, what are you consuming in your mind? How are you feeding your mind? We have to be mindful of how the things that we're feeding is affecting our life, affecting our soul. Are we thinking about things that oppose God? Are we scrolling on Instagram and comparing ourselves to others and filling ourselves with doubt, insecurity? Are we looking at things that are not right before him? I'll tell you, these are all the things that will start to chip away at your peace. And we have to be extra sensitive. Why? How do I know this? Because our mind tends to focus on the bad things, the negative things. How do I know this? Well, anybody be very excited to go to a family party, and you're like so excited. You're like, okay guys, let's go. It's the holidays. We're going to the family party. You show up, and one of your, I'm not going to say aunt, probably your aunt will say, you gained weight. And I'll tell you, that excitement is gone. You're going through, they're singing around you, and you're just like, yeah, great. Why? Because we start to focus on that one thing, that one comment, that one thing you let in. I'll tell you, it can take root and it can spread in your life. We start to focus, and that's just, I don't know why, but we got to fight that thing. So what does that mean? Don't wait until that moment to fill yourself with good things, because it's not enough. You got to constantly be filling, so full that it's hard for the enemy to penetrate. Well, that when that negative thing comes in, you already have 5 good things in your mind. We got to be proactive. What we set our minds on, we have to be aware, because that could be robbing your peace today. See, Paul says, 2 Corinthians 10:5, we demolish arguments, every pretension that sets itself up against the knowledge of God. We take captive every thought and make it obedient to Christ. So when that stuff comes in your mind, you make it captive to the word of God. That's not what God says about me. That's not who I am. That does not change the destiny and call of my life. I will not accept what that person is planting in my mind. We have to be proactive. See, if you lose the battle in the mind, you lose your peace. So we have to put a precedent on, taking care of our mental health, making sure that everything is taking rest, doing what we need to do, assessing what's happening. We got to slow down. We got to put a priority on it. Romans 8:6 says, the mind governed by the flesh is death, but the mind governed by the Spirit is life and peace. So what do? We call upon the word when we get worried, when we have fear, doubt. Set your minds on the truth. Isaiah 26:3, you will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast because they trust in you. The last thing to guard our peace is walk in peace with others. we got to walk at peace with others. We must intentionally seek peace with one another. As peace is freely given, we have to also freely give peace. God did not design us to be individuals walking this battle alone. God designed us as an army of God, walking together, gaining ground together. God didn't just die on the cross for you and me, but he died on the cross for the whole world. Ephesians 2:14 and 15 says, "For he himself is our peace, who has made the two groups one and has destroyed the barrier, the dividing wall of hostility, by setting aside in his flesh the law with its commands and regulations." His purpose was to create in himself one new humanity of the two, thus making peace. This is what it also says, Colossians 3. "Therefore, as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, clothe yourselves with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. Bear with each other and forgive one another if you have any grievance against someone. Forgive as the Lord forgave you. And over all these virtues put on love, which binds them all together in perfect unity. Let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts. Since as members of one body, you were called to peace, and be thankful." See, he designed us to be in unity with one another. And the truth is, our peace is impacted when we are not walking right with one another. You see, we can't buy the lie that says that nothing impacts us if we're not walking right together. You see, we have to assess if there's any unforgiveness in our hearts. Because I'll tell you, that unforgiveness that you're hoping that will hurt the other person, that unforgiveness is robbing you of your peace. It's creating bitterness inside of you. It's holding you back from marching ahead and walking in peace. It's stealing away the peace that God has given. He says it plainly in his word. He will not forgive those who do not forgive others. There is no option. Why? Because it's for our good that we release. It's also given by him. So the question is, who is it that you need to forgive today? You see, it's the beginning of the year. Who is it that you need to forgive? Who is it that you need to release? Just let them go. And they might not deserve it, but we don't deserve it from Christ either. But he releases us freely. So my friends, if you want to walk in peace and gain ground, choose to forgive. And I pray God will give you the courage to forgive today. The Bible says in Matthew 5, he says, before you leave your gift on the altar, go reconcile with your brother. Then come back and give your gift. You see, guarding our peace means walking in peace with one another. You know, these are just a few things. I'm closing now. These are just a few things where we can fit our feet in peace, that we can be ready, that we can have a sound heart and mind so that we can walk ahead in confidence. See, but what I really want to tell you today, that God's gift, that God's peace is a gift. Like, it's nothing that we have done to earn it. It is given freely to us. So as I close, I just want to remind us, my friends, share this gift of peace with others. Share the gospel to others. Why? Because the world is so troubled. The world is so anxious. The world is filled with worry. Talk to your coworkers, talk to your neighbors. They're ridden with anxiety. They're ridden with fear. They're ridden with confusion. Let us give them the gift of peace. As God has reconciled us to him, let us carry the message to our loved ones this year to say, Christ made a way for you to be whole. You don't need to struggle through this life. But God can give you his peace. My friends, you are equipped to win in Jesus' name. And God has commissioned all of us. And that spirit of peace, spirit of Christ in us, is with us as we share the good news to all those who need his love, who need relationship with him. So let's not shy away. You know, as Paul was talking about the ministry of reconciliation and all that Christ did for us, he said this in 2 Corinthians 5:20, we are therefore Christ's ambassadors. As though God were making his appeal through us, we implore you on Christ's behalf, be reconciled to God. We have to bring that message to the world. Be reconciled with God. And today, if you feel troubled, if you feel anxious, if your heart is unsettled and your mind feels like it's being tossed to and fro, may God's peace fill you. It's his gift to us.